Longhorn fans, Sooner Nation, welcome to episode 21 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. Kevin, it is Red River Rivalry Week. Say that 4 times fast. A lot has gone on in the last 9 days of college football, especially to our two teams. But it will not diminish my enthusiasm for this game coming up on Saturday. With all the turmoil the Oklahoma Sooners are facing, the ups, the downs, the recruiting losses, the hurt quarterbacks, it can all be put right with a win next Saturday. Y'all got off to a good start to this week with a win against West Virginia at home. How'd you feel after the game?
Man, I feel great. The second half woes that have plagued this team really since Sark became our head coach did not show up yesterday, and I feel very good about that. I mean, 38-20, comprehensive win. It was nice to not be stressed during the game.
We're going to get more in depth to that, but did you love the trickeration in the third quarter, finally opening up the playbook to try to put a team away?
Yeah. I mean, the double pass, it was great, man. I hope we see more of it going forward.
I hope we don't see.
They got Jatavian Sanders involved down the field because that dude's special.
I hope we don't see any of it because I'm not sure we can cover a straight drop back pass, let alone a double pass from Xavier Worthy. Kevin, the TCU football game that Oklahoma played yesterday was the single worst half of college football played by an Oklahoma team that I can remember. There were tweets going back to Nebraska in 1995 and A&M in 95, 96, whatever the case may be. I don't care. That's ancient, right? I'm talking about in recent history, the worst half of football I've ever seen an Oklahoma team play. The only thing that's on the radar is Baylor in 2014 when Julian Wilson and Mike Stoops almost came to blows on the sidelines as Baylor dinked and dunked them for every touchdown in the second half. I've struggled, Kevin, with this show, how I'm going to address this loss. It was so bad. And as I'm doing the podcast now, I'm struggling with how to address it because on one hand, I'm excited for the Red River rivalry. I can't lie. That doesn't change this. This game doesn't change my excitement level for having to getting to go face Texas. And it's not like y'all are some juggernaut of a team. Good win yesterday, but you're a 3-2 team, right? We're a 3-2 team.
Mm-hmm.
Can we beat Texas? Absolutely. But my goodness, the storylines, Kevin. Y'all were wondering who your quarterback's going to be next week. We were feeling very comfortable with Gabriel. That's out the window. Now you're sitting there saying, I've got Hudson Card that can go throw for 300 if I have to. No interception. Very efficient. And we got Bevo, who was 7 of 16 for 50 yards. And against a TCU defense who's not that good. So it is going to be a fascinating week leading up to the game in the Cotton Bowl. And these two teams are coming in what is now vastly different directions. Even from a week ago when we both had 2 losses, they were different.
Yeah.
What is Texas fan already fired up? Are you expecting a win next week?
No, I'm hoping for a win. And I'll probably pick Texas. We'll get into our picks later this week, but going into the season, I picked Texas to win the game for a couple of reasons. But yeah, listen, in 2015, Charlie Strong was our head coach. Texas walked into the Cotton Bowl 1-4. 1-4 and beat OU that day. This is OU with Lincoln Riley in his first year as an offensive coordinator, Baker Mayfield starting quarterback, an OU team that ended up making the college football playoff. And Texas beat them in the Cotton Bowl, again, at 1-4, coming off a 50-7 loss to TCU the week before. So I know as well as anybody, anything can happen once you step on that Cotton Bowl field.
Dude, we talked about it very early on. For some of the recaps of our greatest games that we've ever watched, check out some of our very early episodes. But I come back to the 1996 overtime game. Winless Oklahoma beats Texas in the first ever playoff game in the Red River rivalry, getting Coach Blake, one of his first signature wins against Texas, maybe his only signature win, but it was just fascinating to watch it then and to think about it now. It's really, Kevin, the only thing that's giving me hope going into this week is the fact that throw the records out. I know it's cliche, throw the records out the window. This is Oklahoma, Texas. Yeah. At this point, Oklahoma is playing for pride. I don't know. News alert, Oklahoma isn't going to the playoff. Oklahoma is not playing in the Big 12 championship game. We're already 4 games behind Kansas and Kansas State. It's not happening. You still have the Big 12 championship in front of you. I don't think you're a Big 12 championship team, especially after seeing how this league's played, but it's in front of you. You still have that chance.
You still have it to play for, yeah.
That's off the table. At this point, we were playing for pride, and I don't know.
I think the general consensus among Texas fans is that OU is going to be a wounded animal, and he's going to come out firing, scratching and clawing. So no, we are not looking at this game as, some sort of blowout 2005 status. Where the gap is so significant that it's gonna, it's gonna be easy.
Not 100%. Let's review the week that was outside of Oklahoma and Texas. We both had Baylor beating Oklahoma State, and I tell you what, Kevin, Oklahoma State looked really good in that game.
They did.
They were in control the entire time. Took it to them on the road. Baylor falls to 3-2, which I don't think anybody expected. What were your thoughts on that game?
Spencer Sanders was good. He had the one interception, but he was good overall. The Oklahoma State defense, though, I was really impressed by them. I wasn't sure how they would be losing Jim Knowles to Ohio State, but it was a great performance by them. They forced some turnovers. They had the kickoff return touchdown, which really put the game away. On the second half kickoff, they returned it for a touchdown and put them up, I think, 23-3. And Baylor's offense is not built to be coming back from 20-point deficits.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, very impressive by them.
Oklahoma State looked good, and I think they've got to be your favorite to get to Dallas, at least for the Big 12, if not win it. I'll tell you what.
Correct.
Kansas Jayhawks, 14.
They keep doing it, man.
They did it differently this time. They did it with defense.
This was most impressive. Yeah, this was more impressive than their other wins.
And look, Iowa State, not a great team, not a bad team, beat Iowa, but we know that they don't have the pieces they've had. But Kansas at home, 14-11. I mean, that is that's just a grudge kind of big on big type. We want this a little bit more. They're sitting at 2-0 in the Big 12, 4-0. They will be ranked. We've talked about this now for 3 weeks. They will be ranked.
They have to be, right?
And that is just continues to be a fascinating story. Georgia only 26-22 over a Missouri team that K-State demolished.
Yeah.
So
it took a late touchdown for them to take the lead too.
Look, Georgia wins, and when you're Georgia at this point in the season, you just win. But my goodness, that raises some eyebrows, at least to their vulnerabilities. Clemson, who I've dogged on them all season, gets out of NC State or gets over NC State with a win. Did you see the Ole Miss Kentucky game? Were you watching any of this game?
No, I was watching your game.
Well, first of all, I was not watching my game, only sparingly. It is 22-19 Ole Miss with about a minute and a half to go, and Kentucky gets the ball back after stopping them. Big pass play, a kind of a crossing route, kind of caught him sleeping, all the way down the sideline to the 5-yard line. So we're talking first and goal from the 5 with like 58 seconds to go in the game. So plenty of time.
Yeah.
If at worst comes to worst, you're going to overtime. They run a quick play on first down for a seemingly touchdown on a fade route. And the play gets waved off because of a illegal motion penalty by a receiver. The receiver wasn't set. So it goes back to like first and goal from the 12. Quarterback goes back. Kevin gets hit as he goes. Fumble, recovery, Ole Miss wins. It was
insane.
I love that. That's what I love about college football is the highs and the lows. And those, listen, nobody likes Lane Kiffin. I could care less about Lane Kiffin. And I was definitely pulling for Kentucky, but it was just a fantastic game. Ole Miss survives 22-19. They're undefeated. Mississippi State, thank the good Lord they beat A&M. I couldn't deal with it this week if A&M won again.
Oh, yeah. And they beat them down too, right? I mean, the game wasn't really close.
42-24.
Yeah, I mean, 18-point loss. If you're Texas A&M, this is bad. This season is really falling apart for them, And we talk about a team that was in the top 5 to start the season. And I know OU season has been disappointing, right? But there were still questions about OU. Well, A&M was supposed to be legit. This was legitimately supposed to be a year that they could challenge Alabama. And what do they have? 2 losses already?
And listen, Mississippi State, I don't care if they're ranked. You can't. Mississippi State is not a team you lose to. I mean, they're basically, at this point, they're the Texas Tech of the SEC for all reasons. All reasons. Mike Leach, type of offense they run, their perennial position in the SEC. They're never going to win it, but they're going to. It's a bad loss. To compare Oklahoma and A&M, I think, is a fair comparison as far as expectations. But let's face it, very different situations. Jimbo has quote unquote gone through the rebuilding process. They were at the they're coming into the season with the attitude that they've been through the rebuilding process. They're ready to play. They're ready to compete. Recruiting has shown where they're at. Coming off a big recruiting win we talked about last Wednesday. I mean, it's a weird spot for A&M. And I am thankful that it occurred to them. And then lastly, Wake Forest beats Florida State 31-21. It's just real. USC wins, which I don't care, but just continue to punch me in the footballs over this. So anyway, Kevin, I mean, it was a very interesting week. Not any tremendous upsets, but I think we're starting to see a definition of where teams are at, right?
Correct, yeah.
And the separation is starting. We're starting to see Oklahoma State separate. We're starting to see, Kansas is continuing this Cinderella run. K-State's validating their win over Oklahoma with the win at Texas Tech, or maybe it was at home, but whatever. Anyway,
Kansas and TCU next week.
Where's that game at?
In Lawrence, Kansas.
I mean, I don't know what to even think about that game. It's kind of like the K-State Texas Tech. I didn't know what to think about it. It's going to take me some time to go through the numbers and see. I
picked K-State to win that game. I just didn't. I don't think Texas Tech is a great team. I know they beat Texas. They got scoreboard. Congratulations on that, but I just don't think they're very good, man.
As far as our picks go, Kevin, we picked Baylor loss. We picked Oklahoma loss. And did we?
I didn't pick OU to cover though, right?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's see. Yes, you did. You picked OU to cover.
Did I? But I did.
Yes, okay. We went 0-3, Kevin. We picked OU to cover, West Virginia to cover, and Baylor to win outright.
Okay.
We are 0-3, which takes us to 7-10 on the year. What once showed promise, slowly losing its grip. Before we break down the Texas win against West Virginia, let's say hello to our sponsor, Brown O'Haver. I'll tell you what, if you're having a bad season in life, Brown O'Haver is going to be there for you, Kevin. They represent the insured, not the insurance company in the adjusting of claims. So if you've had a fire due to loss, wind, theft, vandalism, whatever the case may be, give them a call, 405-735-5510. They will adjust the claim for you, not the insurance company. Get 30 to 40% more for their clients than clients get on their own. And more importantly, they will be there for you in your time of loss. Although the team that didn't lose this week, the University of Texas, I think it's a pretty big win at West Virginia. I know you were favored. I know you expected to win, but the way you won has to feel better. Break this game down for us, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, they came out in typical Texas fashion, right? They under Sark, they've shown that they start games well. They start games fast. Sark usually has a really good opening script, and it was no different. Now they did go 3-and-out on their first possession, but went down and scored on the second. 14-0 after one, 28-0 in the second, and then West Virginia got a touchdown right before halftime to make it 28-7. They really Hudson Card looked good, very efficient. Hit on some deep balls, which he's struggled with all year. Okay, they
Real
got
quick,
Xavier. Go ahead.
real quick. Hudson Card
Yeah,
stats. That's when you've got a Bijan Robinson in the backfield. Okay, 21 of 27 for 303 yards, 11.2 a completion, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. What else do you want from your quarterback?
there's nothing else you can ask for from your backup quarterback, mind you. Mind you.
Now, did he to Texas fan? Did he look that good? Did he look as good as his stats looked?
Yeah, he looked good. As far as the way I judge Hudson Card, I judge him as being our backup quarterback. He looked good. There were a couple of throws he got away with. There was a deep ball he threw to Xavier Worthy. It was underthrown. The ball was tipped by the corner. He made a diving catch in the end zone for a touchdown. There was a little bit of luck on that one, but overall, yeah, he was very good. And I think what I liked about him is that he was aggressive. Sometimes he seems a little shy to pull the trigger on downfield deep passes, and we didn't see that yesterday. He was very aggressive, and I like that from him.
You talk about being lucky, but let's face it, right? If you're throwing a ball in the end zone to Xavier Worthy, you've got the odds on that.
Agreed.
The odds are on, and to your point, pull the trigger. Let it
go.
Let a player make a play, because Xavier Worthy is proving to be the player we all thought he was last year and was going to be this year. And if you're Hudson Card and you're the backup quarterback, perfect example, and you've got to throw the ball, dude, he's a pretty good target. And I think that eliminates that element of luck. A lucky pass to me is when you're throwing it to somebody you shouldn't be throwing it to, and he somehow makes a play. Xavier Worthy, on the other hand, dude, let that guy make some plays. Let him make some plays, and he did.
7 catches, 119 yards, along with 2 touchdowns. So it was exciting to see him finally really get going this year. Excuse me. They also got Jatavian Sanders, the tight end, involved. He had a great game.
Has he been on that from him too? It doesn't sound like the first. That sounds like the first time we've really heard his name on this podcast. Has he been kind of MIA up to this point?
He's been okay. He had a couple of catches in the Alabama game. He had a couple of touchdowns in the first game too against ULM. But he's been very quiet as a receiver the last few weeks. This guy's a 5-star athlete out of Denton Ryan, high school teammates with OU safety Billy Bowman.
Okay.
Remember, Texas initially had them both committed before Billy Bowman flipped to OU. This guy's an athlete. He played defensive end and tight end, or really defensive end and wide receiver in high school. So we weren't sure where he'd play for Texas. And Sark, of course, made the move. I want this guy on offense. Didn't play much last year. Like I said, looked good in the first game this year, but he's really starting to develop. And Sark is just using him as a downfield threat, which Texas hasn't had from the tight end position literally since Jermichael Finley was playing for Texas in 2007.
Yeah.
That's how talented this guy is. So I hope we use him more because, like I said, he's really hard to cover with his athleticism at 6'4", 250.
Is that going to be and we'll get maybe more in depth with this, but it's just on top of my mind right now. Is that going to be like a Deshaun White matchup, you think? Are we going to see Deshaun White against this kid?
I would think so. I mean, Deshaun White does have speed to turn and run. Now his size, I think Deshaun White is 6 foot, and again, Sanders is 6'4". But I think that's probably your best matchup for him.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't know. I don't know that we have anybody that's going to match up for him with size. So
yeah,
I'm just thinking in terms of that position that Deshaun White plays and kind of where they have him at. Your defense was a worry. Your defense was the concern. We said if the defense plays well and Hudson Card's efficient, you win. That happened. What do you think of the defense going into the OU?
Yeah, they look pretty good. Again, the defensive line, and actually, if you go back and look at the Texas Tech game, the defensive line itself wasn't horrible. They were able to get a lot of pressure. They just weren't able to finish with sacks, and they did a better job with that. They sacked JT Daniels 3 times yesterday, which is really good. I mean, he was not very efficient. 29 or 48 for 253 yards,
That's not
5.3.
very. That's not very good.
Yeah, quarterback rating 49.8. So yeah, they gave up some little underneath slants and things like that. But yeah, this is once the game was out of hand. So they were perfectly content to let them dink and dunk. They had a couple scoring drives, but I mean they would take 7 minutes to get down the field and score. West Virginia in the second half. And Texas was fine with that when they were up by 28. So no big plays allowed. They really slowed down the West Virginia running game. Let's see, ended up with where are we at? 61 yards rushing, 30 carries, 30 for 61 yards. So they did a good job. I'm feeling pretty good about the defense.
I don't want to take anything away from your win. I really this isn't. I'm serious about this. Is West Virginia the worst team in the Big 12?
Potentially. I don't think they're that bad. But again, I don't know if anybody in the conference is bad either, right? Like, is there a really bad team in the conference?
And this is a transition into the OU talk, okay? So this is kind of like our segue into OU. It's a weird year. It's a bad year for OU to be down, right? I mean, any year is a bad year for OU to be down, and any year is a bad year for Texas to be down, both fan bases. But it's a weird year for OU to be down because it feels like we've got a pretty strong Big 12. OSU, Kansas, K-State, and TCU are all going to be ranked.
Yeah,
they're all going to be ranked.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor and Iowa State, even though they're 3-2, you still don't want to play them.
No, it's going to be a fight every week.
They still are going to bring a high level of intensity, fundamentally sound, not make that many mistakes. You're going to have to beat them like Oklahoma State did yesterday. Oklahoma State beat Baylor.
They beat Baylor. Yeah.
Baylor didn't beat themselves. Texas Tech can put up points. You saw that in the Texas game. Even in their loss to Kansas State, they put up points. You could maybe make the argument that they're the worst team, but they also beat Texas, so it's hard to say. Yeah. And West Virginia is not awful. Had a big win on the road against Virginia Tech, hung with Pittsburgh. And then as far as an OU-Texas matchup, Oklahoma is still Oklahoma. Texas is still Texas. It's going to be a matchup. I'm just saying, within the Big 12, this is a bad year for OU to be down. And Kevin, down they are against. Let's start statistically. I don't know where else to start, so I'm going to start statistically. Dillon Gabriel, 7 for 16, 126 yards, 7.9 yards per carry, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Listen, I made the argument. A lot of people made the argument last week that Dillon Gabriel was good enough to beat K-State. Listen, he was not good enough to beat TCU.
Not at all.
And those stats aren't good enough to those stat line. Now, granted, he got knocked out in the third quarter, but it doesn't matter the way he was trending. His stat line and his performance at this point, after I just went through the kind of the big picture of the Big 12, it's not big enough to be. They're not good enough to beat anybody in the Big 12. Am I over? Yeah. Am I going crazy with that? I don't think I am.
No, with the performance like that, it'll be hard to beat anybody in the conference, honestly.
It just wasn't very good. RG3, you know how when you're watching a game and you're losing, everything bugs you? Everything makes you mad?
Yes.
I don't love RG3, but he was on point with his analysis of Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel was sailing passes. This has been his miss all year. It was especially prevalent. He couldn't hit open guys. He couldn't make tight throws. He couldn't throw his deep ball well. His receivers didn't help him. That fumble by Marvin Mims was not the way to start the game or the drive.
No.
And that's
especially from a player like that.
That's exactly right. We talked about it with Bijan's fumble against Texas Tech came in an opportune time. It's like you want to get the ball in Mims' hands. But it just wasn't good. It wasn't good at all.
And I like Gabriel's his ability to escape the pocket when the rush comes. And man, some of those throws, if he would have hit them, they would have been incredible plays. Because he does a really good job of getting out of pressure.
Sure.
Right? There were times where, from the jump, TCU's getting pressure. He's able to elude the rush, get out of the pocket, But man, he just like RG3 was saying, couldn't get his feet set and make the proper throw. Guys were open. Those are big plays waiting to happen.
Well, and that's it all feeds into itself, right? It all creates the next opportunity or the next miss. But you make those simple plays. I'm thinking about one in the first quarter where he breaks contain on fourth down. It was a fourth down play. Breaks contain and Marvin Mims is open. You got to make the play. Then you've got our backup quarterback, Bevel, 7 for 16, 50 yards, 3.1 yards a carry. Going into
He wasn't ready to play at all, man. I mean, I know. And look, he's a backup for a reason, right?
We were already losing the game.
Yeah, it was 34-10, right?
We were already losing the game. He wasn't going to go out and win us the game by any means.
Real quick though,
sure.
I hated that hit on Dylan Gabriel. I thought that was horrible,
dude. It was so unnecessary. The game is out of doubt.
It's already 34-10, man. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, you don't know what goes through the kid's mind when he's trying to make that play. It was a bad play though. He's clearly sliding. Yeah. Selfishly for OU, it kills us going into this week because I'll tell you what, the optics of playing Gabriel in this game after what happened with Tua.
Yeah.
It's bad, right? If they play him against Texas, I can only imagine the backlash Oklahoma is going to receive if they play Gabriel.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for Venables to be in, for sure.
And he's not the one supposedly that makes the call, right? It'll be the medical staff. We're going to see how he progresses throughout the week, concussion protocol, and all of that. It doesn't matter, right? We're 3-2. We're not playing for a Big 12 championship. We're not playing for a playoff spot. We're simply in a position now where we're trying to set a groundwork for future play. I can't imagine a scenario where they play Gabriel. I haven't read anything this morning to see where he's at or where he's progressed. So if you're watching this later in the week and something changes, then my take's a bad take. I just don't envision a scenario. So with that being said, if we got to roll out with Bevel, holy crap on a cracker. It does not look good for us. It just doesn't, dude.
Yeah, it's a rough spot to be in, for sure. I mean, and again, I know Texas is playing their backup quarterback, right? But this is a different situation. Hudson Card has played in games. He started several games this season. So, yeah, it's a little bit different.
It's a different situation.
Texas has.
And we're going to talk about this in some of our preview episodes come up, which, by the way, folks, we're going to have preview episodes throughout the week. They're not going to be long killer podcasts, but 15, 20, 30-minute quick hitters about what we're feeling, what we're thinking about in the game. And one of them is going to be on the quarterback situation. And early take, I think we got to give Nick Evers a look because he can't be as bad as Bevel was yesterday. Either that or Booty.
Now, okay. Do you roll him out against Texas?
I don't think you start him. I don't think you
Okay.
start him. But I think if things start to go a little sideways, I think you look for any kind of spark and give the kid some experience in a big time game like that. I don't think this is a game where you just let Bevel just get the crap kicked out of him for 4 quarters. I don't think that proves anything. Yeah. Real quick, rushing. Eric Gray did not have the game we needed him to have. He looked like Eric Gray has looked throughout his career. Not the last 2 games.
He popped some big runs in the first quarter too. It looked like it was going to be there.
I still contend that if the argument's to be made, they didn't give him the ball enough. At 13 carries, the stats weren't there. There's not enough carries for your starting tailback, especially when Marcus Major's not playing, which I could never figure out. Is he hurt? Is he suspended? Did you ever find out?
No, never. No, I haven't heard anything.
So, but 13 carries isn't enough, especially when your quarterback's not being very effective. You got to run the ball.
Yeah,
oh my God. Javonte Barnes looked good, gave us some good runs, 18 for 100 yards, 5.6 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. He's a bright spot in the game.
Yeah. I think we expected this, right? I know before the season, I expected Javonte Barnes to eventually become the guy at running back.
Let me ask you, when you're watching Javonte Barnes run, does he run Do you get scared every time he runs when he goes head down into almost every tackle?
Yeah, man. I mean, he's a physical guy. He's got a little bit of a Remember Marion Barber for the Cowboys,
Yes.
who is just the most physical guy ever throwing himself into defenders. He kind of reminds me
I,
of that in
I,
a way.
I like it, but man, you got to learn to not take a hit. I mean, he's got to learn to kind of,
Everybody, yeah,
yeah, but you know who he reminds you of? I'm not comparing, just kind of a reminder of style. Was DeMarco Murray always went head first into every
yeah. He used to
tackle.
do that. Yeah. Hmm.
So I guess maybe there's a bright side to the method in which he attacks the line, but I don't know. It just makes me nervous watching him.
Is Eric Gray injured? Did he get hurt?
God, I don't have it on the list of people that got hurt, which we'll get to.
Okay.
It's long and unfortunate.
Okay. 'Cause I thought I
Defend
heard something about him being injured this year. I
defensively,
could be wrong.
Kevin. The stats are
Yeah.
they're irrelevant. The defense sucked. There's no other way to say it. It was really bad from the beginning. Multiple busts in the secondary two of which resulted in a 73-yard pass, 62-yard pass, where there is nobody in the picture.
Nobody.
RG3 broke a couple of them down. I don't even know if I buy his breakdowns. It looked terrible. Multiple pass interference calls, which has me scared to death playing against Texas. I've liked Woody Washington in that role. He got exposed against TCU.
Yeah, he was really handsy. I mean, and to me, that's a result of not trusting your technique, right? Or not trusting the scheme. No one looked comfortable out there.
Nobody
looked
looked
confused.
Defensive line, we got 1 sack, 4 tackles for loss, but I think the 1 sack, I think we had to blitz 7 to get the sack that we got. And then you have the run game, right? Which TCU, we made their run game look like, I don't even understand it. We had Duggan, 67-yard run for a 67-yard run, 36-yard run, 69-yard run, 35-yard run. You and I talked about this on the phone. We talked about it last week, and we talked about on the phone that Max Duggan has a surprising speed.
Yes.
And my response was, he's not Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. So I don't need any of that. It's insane. Max Duggan can't run for 67 yards on you, and you don't have a person in the secondary that can catch him. That's asinine, Kevin. It's asinine that look. Okay, he's an athlete. He plays college football. Great. The dude has like 4.8 speed. You know what I mean? He barely breaks 5. I don't even care. What am I missing?
Yeah, I mean, it was just bad all around.
It was just
the
bad.
Breakdowns. I mean, coverage issues, the breakdowns. Guys look confused on their assignments, and the tackling was bad too.
Oh,
that's the most surprising thing. They're just bouncing off you guys.
And this is coming off a loss against K-State, where you said, "Here's what needs to be fixed." Right? If we fix these, not only did they not fix those things, whatever that long laundry list was, they added.
Yeah, it was much worse.
They did not have the number of pass interference calls against TCU that they had against K-State. That's a new wrinkle, right, to our defensive scheme now, is let's tackle the receiver in the end zone instead of playing any kind of defense.
Yeah.
And you know what? There are good pass interference. There is such a thing as a good pass interference. When you're beat.
Correct.
But dude, Woody Washington's there. He's in coverage. Make a play. Make it competitive. Do something. No. Let's just tackle the guy.
And that's what I'm talking about when you don't trust what you're doing when you start doing that. When you start grabbing on guys, when you're in position to simply turn your head around and just stick your hands up, and you'll likely break up a pass. And the crazy thing is Quentin Johnson didn't even have a big game. 4 catches for 41 yards. They didn't even need it.
Well,
361 yards rushing, 307 yards passing.
But here's the deal on those passing numbers and on Quentin Johnson. I think a couple of those were really big plays because of the pass interference. Like, if we don't tackle him before the ball gets there, he probably makes that play.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. It was bad all around. I think 2 things can be true with this Oklahoma team. And I'm not trying to find a silver lining, but I am trying to find a silver lining. OU is not as good as we thought. That there's nowhere around that. The 3 teams that we played prior to these 2 losses were simply just not very good. But we're not as good as we thought we were. I'm going to tell you this. I still believe we're not as bad as what we saw against TCU. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
But we will find out against Texas. A 3-2 matchup to determine who sucks less is going to happen next Saturday. The injury list. I don't know what your injury list is coming out of West Virginia. We didn't talk about it. Any big injury hits for you guys?
Not that I've heard of.
Get ready for this. Get ready for this list. Billy Bowman, who has been
injured on that kickoff return, right?
Somewhere Lincoln and Riley is smiling and saying that's why I don't return kickoffs. And we have our heads in our hands going, oh my God, I hate when somebody's right. Marcus Stripling did not play. Didn't know why. Same thing with Marcus Major. Again, I don't ever pretend to be an insider, but I have no idea why that kid didn't play. With Marcus Major, you're always nervous about anything. Is it midpoint in the semester? Is his grades not there? It could be anything with this. Could he be hurt? It could be anything. But we could have used him. That's for sure. Wanye Morris gets hurt in the game. Not good.
That didn't look good either.
Gabriel, again, we've said it, but I'll say it ad nauseum. I don't see a scenario where he plays against Texas. I don't know that it's a good opportunity to get him in the game. We'll see. Theo Wees gets hurt. Hopefully he's back because we need every bit of offensive firepower we can muster. And then Damon Harmon, of course, took that hit, and that was scary, man.
Hard to watch, man. Yeah.
At that point in the game, I was listening to Toby's call on the radio. I was heading to a soccer game. It wasn't good, and it wasn't good how that was going down. And you're talking 15 minutes, and that takes you're already getting beat, but that takes a lot out of a team.
Yeah.
And it's just not a way you want to end the game or anything. Yeah. So anyway,
similar thing happened in the Texas game. C.J. Donaldson, the West Virginia running back, went down. He had to be stretchered off. I mean, they cut the kid's pads off on the field.
Update real quick. Update on Damon Harmon was that he had movement and things were looking okay. Did we ever get an update on the West Virginia kid?
Yeah, they said that he will be traveling back with the team.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
very relieving.
It's
not a good week for it. Not a good couple days for injuries in football.
No,
see some scary stuff over the last few days.
It's not, and I think hits like that, hits like Gabriel, are reminders why targeting as a rule exists. When we get all mad, that ain't targeting. What happened to football in the night when I was a kid? You know what?
We got to keep the game safe.
Maybe this is what we're talking about. Because if we want to enjoy football at a high level, I mean, you think about the NFL and all the protection they give on quarterbacks. That's because we want to watch those quarterbacks play.
Yes. And the receivers, you can't have guys getting their heads blown off coming across the middle.
Yes. It's not just their safety should be the paramount reason. I get it. They're safe, all of that. But guess what? They signed off on their safety a long time ago when they decided to play pro football, right? It's because we want to see these dudes play. I want to watch Tom Brady play. I want to watch Aaron Rodgers play. I want to pick your quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes get lit up on the backside because I want to watch him play for the next 10 years.
Correct.
So anyway, that's a PSA to say, stop griping when there's a targeting call against your team. Tell your guy not to hit him when you're quarterback sliding. To transition into the greatest rivalry game in college football, Kevin, how does Texas fan feel Sunday morning getting ready to play Oklahoma in 6 days?
Well, we feel pretty good. But again, I feel good about Texas. What I've seen from them over at least this yesterday's game, right? I want to say the last couple of weeks because the Tech thing was a complete debacle. I feel good about Texas, but we know how these games go. It's going to be a 4-quarter game. I sincerely believe it's going to be a 4-quarter game. I don't care who OU rolls out a quarterback. They're going to have some sort of crazy game plan. They're going to show some things that Texas hasn't seen on film before. So it's going to be a battle. The fans are going to show up from both sides, and it's going to be the same crazy atmosphere. It's going to be momentum swings, and we'll see who wins. I hope it's Texas. I know you hope it's Oklahoma. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be great.
Oklahoma fan has to get their brain right about this game. Okay? We have to get our brain right. Texas is 3-2 for a reason. Meaning they're not giant killers. They're a 1 game over 500 football team. Oklahoma is a 1 game over 500 football team. We can absolutely compete with Texas. And if we play a very good game, I don't even think we have to play a great game to beat you guys. I think we have to play a very good game. What concerns me is in the event, I mean, every fan feels this way, is by God, I don't want to lose to you guys. I mean, this has been a bad 8 or 9 days for Oklahoma football. I can't even imagine the tailspin that goes in if we lose to Texas by any significant margin. I mean, you live here in Oklahoma. You know what I'm talking about. It will be.
Exactly what you're about. Well, let me see. As far as the way OU fan is feeling, take how you feel and just multiply that by 12 years. That's the existence of Texas fan. Just so you know.
Well, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. Because you know what? I was talking to my wife about this before I record. I'm like, I don't even know what my take is right now. Like, I'm just kind of in a haze, in a fog. I guess my take is maybe the national media was right. Maybe this is a rebuild year. And you lose your quarterback. You lose your head coach. You lose key players on offense. You have early departures for the NFL in Perion Winfrey and White. Whoever the linebacker was. I've already forgotten. But you lost Benito and the other linebacker, Asamoah. So we lost some key players. It is a rebuild year, I guess. I mean, I guess that's where we're at now. Yeah. And here's the problem, right? Oklahoma hasn't had a rebuild year since Rhett Bomar in 06? 05?
Yeah.
We haven't had a rebuild year since 05. That's a long time for us. The last time we had a really bad season was 2014, but that season started out with promise, you know? That wasn't considered a rebuild season. We just turned into a not very good football team.
Yeah.
So I think back to that 05 year, and I think, you know what? We kind of knew this is who we were. After these 3 games, Kevin, that's not who we thought we were. We thought we were giant killers. We were ranked. They had us playing in New Year's Six bowls. We were talking about how bad we're going to beat teams, not how are we going to win. And to change our mindset is just for a sports fan, especially an OU fan, it is a mind meld of emotions. And I'm having a hard time.
I think we talked about it on here, right? And I remember saying that even after the 3 games, I don't know what OU is, right? Like I've seen some good things, but we'll have to wait to see till you face some adversity, you know? So look, like I said, I've been there. Literally, this has been the last 12 years of being a Texas fan.
Absolutely.
Promise time, and then it just completely falls apart.
And so,
but again, I don't know if you're there yet to where it's completely fallen apart, but it doesn't look good at this point.
Oh, it's falling apart. It's falling apart, and the sky isn't falling, but we're not playing for a Big 12 championship. And despite the idea that we're rebuilding, I mean, let's face it, we are now, Oklahoma fan is now sitting here trying to justify losses to a K-State team. But it's still K-State, Kevin. I don't care what level of talent Oklahoma lost. We have who is supposed to be the best defensive coordinator for the last 12 years comes and takes over, and our defense is atrocious again. And we're not even talking about high-flying offenses. K-State is a nice team. TCU is a nice team. TCU's not going to beat Baylor. TCU's not going to beat Oklahoma State. I don't know that TCU beats Kansas next week.
Yeah, and that's the rough part for OU fan is that you haven't played the best teams.
No, that's exactly my point. That's exact. So yes, I think the season is it. Well, I don't know what lost means, but it's lost, right? I mean, all your goals that were out in front of you are lost. So now what you got to see is you have to see game by game improvement. We have to see our teams get better. And
do you turn it over to the young guys? Do you start just playing a bunch of your younger players just to see what they have, or do you try to stick with the current guys you're playing now?
And that's going to be my argument. I think I will make the argument later after I've had time to think about it. But I think that'll be my argument for playing a guy like Nick Evers. Like, what do we have to lose? Let's see what we've got on the roster. Let's take a look and see if these guys are gamers. You know this as well as I do, Kevin. Sometimes gamers just come out and play.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at this Javonte Barnes kid. He's not scared to go put his head down and try to make something happen.
Not at all.
But other guys are not making competitive catches. Jaden Gibson, who everybody's been high on, he had some opportunities to make plays yesterday.
He had that one down the field on fourth down.
Yeah, he had some opportunities to make plays. Now, I'm not dogging him. Nobody looked good. But I'm just saying, put some guys out there. Let's see if they're gamers or not. Let's see if they can make some plays. That being said, every OU fan out there in Crimson and Cream will feel better next Saturday if we go out there and we beat Texas. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we're 3-2. It doesn't matter that we've lost to K-State and TCU. And you feel the same way. If your loss to Alabama and Texas Tech go out the window for 4 hours if you beat Oklahoma. It's that simple.
Of course. Like I said, we celebrated in 2015. We were 1-4. 1-4 going into that game and beat OU. So yeah, it was great.
We're not 1-4, Kevin. We're still one game over 500. I hope this is not who we are this year, but I think it is who we are. Do you think this is who Texas is? Do you think you're going to be a 7-5, 8-4 team? Do you think you get to 7 wins?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know if Oklahoma does or not. I don't know if Oklahoma gets to 8 wins because I don't know if they win against Oklahoma State, Baylor. Those are 2 more losses. That's 4. I tell you what, Kansas is legit. They are not. This isn't even a feel-good story anymore. They're a good football team. You beat Iowa State, you're a good football team. You're 5-0. So, I don't know. There will be a ton to talk about this week, Kevin. This is the week for us. Season.
This is why we do this.
Our seasons are made or broken with this week. We will look back on this year and go, we at least beat Texas. You will look back on this year and say, we will at least beat Oklahoma. If we lose, it will be a spiral of depression around here that I don't even know we felt. I thought losing Lincoln Riley threw us into a tailspin as a fan base. I don't even want to know what happens if we go 3-3 and lose to Texas. It could be insane. It could be insane.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been there. This is my life for the last 12 years. So
I'm having a hard time ending the show because I'm just in a rambling space in my brain. But let's go ahead and end it. Tomorrow, we're going to shoot a short Get Hype episode of the Red River Rivalry, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this week's going to be a lot of fun. I think by the time I drive down to Texas on Friday afternoon, I'm going to be ready to get to the state fair. I'm going to be ready to watch some football. Kevin, are you starting to get fired up after that win?
Man, I stay fired up for this.
Dude, Kevin stays fired up. You know what, Oklahoma fan? Take this away. We play Texas this week, and we need to win. Let's freaking go. Boomer.
Hook 'em.